All right, today we are going to read a chapter from Tuck Everlasting by Natalie Babbitt, and I know quite a few of you have read it with me, or at least tried to get through most of it with me. Today, I think I'm going to start. We're going to go ahead and just start at chapter 7. I think it's kind of like where the good stuff starts happening in the book. So we're going to go ahead and just start at chapter 7, and we're just going to read one chapter today. It was the strangest story Winnie had ever heard. She soon suspected they had never told it before, except to each other. That she was their first real audience. For they gathered around her like children at their mother's knee, each trying to claim her attention. And sometimes they all talked at once and interrupted each other in their eagerness. 87 years before, the Tucks had come from a long way to the east, looking for a place to settle. In those days, the wood was not a wood. It was a forest, just as her grandmother had said. A forest that went on and on and on. They had thought they would start a farm as soon as they came to the end of the trees. But the trees never seemed to end. When they came to the part that was now the wood and turned from the trail to find a camping place, they happened on the spring. It was real nice, said Jess with a sigh. It looked just the way it does now. A clearing, lots of sunshine. That big tree with all those knobby roots. We stopped and everyone took a drink. Even the horse. No, the cat didn't drink, said May. That's important. Oh, yes, said Miles. Don't leave that out. We all had a drink except for the cat. Okay, well, anyway, Jessie went on. The water tasted sort of strange. But we camped there overnight, and Pa carved a T on the tree trunk to mark where we'd been. And then we went on. They had come out of the forest at last, many miles to the west, had found a thinly populated valley, had started their farm. We put up a house for Ma and Pa, said Miles, and a little shack for Jessie and me. We figured we'd be starting families of our own pretty soon, and would want our own house. That was the first sign we figured there was something peculiar, said May. Jessie fell out of the tree. I was way up in the middle, Jessie interrupted, trying to saw off some of the big branches before we cut her down. I lost my balance and I fell. He landed plumb on his head, said May with a shudder. We thought for sure he'd broke his neck, but come to find out, it didn't hurt him one bit. Not long after, Miles went on. Some hunters came by one day at sunset. The horse was out grazing by some trees, and they shot him. Mistook him for a deer, they said. You fancy that? But the thing is, they didn't kill him. The bullet went right on through him and didn't hardly even leave a mark. Then Pa got bit by a snake, and Jessie ate the poisoned toadstools. And I cut myself, remember? Slicing bread, said May. But it was the passage of time that worried them most. They had worked the farm, settled down, made friends. But after 10 years, then 20, they had to face the fact that there was something terribly wrong. None of them was getting any older. I was more than 40 by then, Miles sadly said. I was married. I had 2 children. But from the look of me, I was still 22. My wife, she finally made up her mind I'd sold my soul to the devil. She left me. She went away, and she took the children with her. I'm glad I never got married, Jessie put in. It was the same with our friends, said May. They come to pull back from us. There was talk about witchcraft, black magic. Well, you can't hardly blame them, but we finally had to leave the farm. We didn't know where to go. We started back the way we came, just wandering. We was like gypsies. When we got this far, it changed, of course. A lot of the tree was gone. There was people, and Tree Gap, it was a new village. The road was here, but in those days it was mostly just a cow path. We went on into what was left of the wood to make a camp, and when we got to the clearing and the tree in the spring, we remembered it from before. It hadn't changed no more than we had, said Miles. And that was how we found out. Pod carved a T on the tree, remember? 20 years before. But the T was there just as it had been done. That tree hadn't grown one whit in all that time. was exactly the same. And the tea he'd carved was as fresh as if he'd just put it out there. That was when they remembered drinking the water. They and the horse, but not the cat. The cat had lived a long and happy life on the farm, but had died some 10 years before. So they decided at last that the source of their changelessness was the spring. When we come to that conclusion, May went on, Tuck said, well, that's my husband, Angus Tuck. He said he had to be sure once and for all. He took his shotgun and pointed it at himself the best he could, and before we could stop him, he pulled the trigger. There was a long pause. May's fingers laced together in her lap, twisted with tension and remembering. At last, she said, the shot knocked him down, went into his heart. It had to, the way he aimed it, and right on through him. Scarcely even left a mark. Just like, like a shot through the bullet of water. But he was just the same as if he'd never done it. We figured it'd be bad if everyone knew about the spring. We'd begun to see what it would mean. Do you understand, child? The water, it stops you right in your tracks. If you had a drink today, you'd stay a little girl forever. You'd never grow up, not ever. We don't know how it works or even why, said Miles. Pa thinks it's something left over from another plan for the way the world should be, said Jessie. Some plan that didn't work out. And so everything was changed, except that the spring was passed over, somehow or other. Maybe he's right. I don't know. But you see, Winnie Foster, when I told you before that I'm 104 years old, I was telling the truth. But I'm really only 17, and as far as I know, I'll stay 17 until the end of the world. Thank you for another edition of Books with Budowitz.